For this lesson, we're going to be solving systems by elimination. So there are some steps that we can follow. The first one is to line up the equations. Both have to be in standard form where all your x's, your y's, and your totals are lined up. Then we want to look for variables that can be eliminated. And variables that can be eliminated must be opposites of each other. For example, if you have 2x and negative 2x. When you have them and you add them, they get eliminated because they're equal to 0. If that's not possible, then we look for terms that are the same. For this case, we have 2x and 2x. If we have that, then we could eliminate them by multiplying one of the equations by -1. Then, if that is not possible, then we look for variables that have multiples. For example, 2x and 4x. So 4 is a multiple of 2. So if that's the case, and we can find a variable like that, then we can multiply one of the equations by the number that makes them opposites. So basically our goal is to make our terms opposites of each other. If none of the above happens, for instance, if we have 3x and 5x, then we multiply each of the equations by the other coefficient. For this case, it's like if we get 5 and we multiply it by 3x, and then we get the coefficient of 3 and we multiply it by 5. But notice how here we have a negative because we want them to be complete opposites. So if they're both positive, then in order to make one negative, we need to multiply one of them by a negative number. So after that's done, then we just basically add vertically to eliminate one of the variables. That's why it's called elimination. We eliminate one of the variables, then we solve for the remaining variable, and then we substitute that value of the variable into either of the original equations, just like we did with substitution, and then we solve for the remaining variable. And then finally, just like we've done with all the others, we write our solution as a point xy. So let's do the first example. So the first example, we have -4x minus 2y equals -12, 4x plus 8y equals -24. If you notice, this 4x is complete opposite of this, this -4x is complete opposite of this 4x. So that takes care of our first step because they're already lined up. Then we look for opposites. We found some opposites, so now we're going to add vertically to eliminate them. And what I mean by add vertically is we're adding our x's together, which means it cancels them. Then we add our y's. -2y plus 8y is a positive 6y. -12 minus 24 is -36. And then we solve for the remaining variables. So this is step 3. This is step 4 where we solve. So we're going to divide by 6 and y is equal to -6. Step 5 is using either one of the original equations and substitute the y value. So I'm going to use, or no, let's go ahead and use the second one because it has less negatives on it. So we're going to use 4x plus 8y equals -24. And now that we have our y value of -6, we're going to substitute to solve for the remaining variable. So we get 4x plus 48, -48 equals -24. Add the 48 and we get 4x is equal to 24 and it's a positive. Then we divide by 4 and we get x is equal to 6. So this is my step 6 is solve. And then step 7 is now that we have our x and our y, we write our solution as a point. So your x is 6 and your y is -6. Okay, let's do a different example where we have 7x plus 2y equals 24, 8x plus 2y equals 30. In this case, we don't have complete opposites, but we have these two terms that are exactly the same. So we're going to multiply one of the equations by -1. I'm going to multiply the bottom one by -1. So I'm rewriting this first equation. We didn't do anything to it. And then I'm going to rewrite the next one after I multiply. Negative 1 times 8x is negative 8x. Then negative 1 times 2y is negative 2y. And then negative 1 times 30 is equal to negative 30. So now our y's are complete opposites of each other. So that means that we cancel them. And we're going to be adding vertically. So we get negative x, or negative 1x, is equal to negative 6. We divide by negative 1, and we have our x value of positive 6. So this was step 2, where we found something to multiply the equation by, to be able to eliminate one of our variables. Step 3 is to add. Step 4 is to solve. And now step 5, we're going to use one of the original equations. I'm going to use the top one this time. So we have 7x plus 2y equals 24. And now that we know our x value, we're going to substitute it with whatever x was. So 7 times 6 plus 2y equals 24. We've got 42 plus 2y equals 24. Subtract 42. 2y is equal to 18. Divide by 2, and y is equal to 9. Now that we have our y value, we're going to use, well, now that we have our x and our y value, we write our solution as a point, which is x is 6 and my y 9. So this was step 6, where we solved for y, and step 7 is where we find our point, or write it as a point. Okay, let's do the final example. Now in this one, if you look at your x's, when we look at our x's, we have a negative 4 and a 1. We look at our y's, we have a 9 and a negative 3. Neither of them are exactly the same or opposites of each other, but we can make that 3 look like a 9, or we can make that 1 look like a 4 by multiplying by one of the numbers. So I'm going to eliminate the y's, and I'm going to do that by multiplying the bottom equation by 3. If we multiply the negative 3y times 3, that will make it the opposite of positive 9y. So let's go ahead and rewrite our equations. The top equation, nothing happens to it because we didn't multiply by anything. But here we have 3 times 1x, we get 3x. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9y. And then 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. So now we're going to add. This is our step 3. Add vertically. Negative 4x plus x is negative x. These cancel. 9 plus negative 18 is negative 9. And then we're going to divide by negative 1. And x is equal to 9. Now I'm going to use one of the two. This was step 4. I'm going to use one of the two original equations. The second equation has smaller numbers, so I'm just going to choose that one. So we've got 1x minus 3y equals negative 6. This is step 5. And then we're going to substitute that x for negative 9. I'm sorry, positive 9. So we get 9 minus 3y equals negative 6. And then we just solve for y. Negative 3, and y is equal to 5. So our solution here, this was step 6, is to solve. Step 7 is to write it as a solution point. Your x is 9 and your y is 5. Okay, there's going to be some cases where both variables are eliminated, and if that is the case, then at the very end, when you simplify as much as you can and you end up with an equation that is untrue, like 1 is not equal to 4, then we have no solution. And if we have no solution, that means our lines are parallel. There's another case where if we eliminate both variables and at the end both sides of the equal sign are exactly the same, then that means we have infinite solutions. And infinite solutions just means that we have the exact same line.